Pam Bondi maintained a calm demeanor. There was no necessity for her to do so. A single remark directed at Hillary Clinton was enough to bring the broadcast to an abrupt halt. The illumination within the studio was excessively intense for ease, yet that was an integral aspect of the performance. In the glare of those lights, concealment was impossible. Each pause, each smirk, each misstep, it was all evident. The segment was broadcast live, without any pre-recording or opportunities for retakes. Pam Bondi positioned herself at the far end of the rectangular table, maintaining a straight posture with her hands gently clasped in front of her. Her gaze drifted over the notes that held little significance for her. She had already made up her mind about what to express. Seated in the center was Jeff Kinney, recognized more for his ability to maintain harmony than to provoke controversy. He was flanked by two other panelists, one representing a national political watchdog group and the other from a cable news outlet. And then there was the screen, that enormous flat panel monitor behind them, illuminating Hillary Clinton live from her residence in Chappaqua. This evening's discussion will focus on classified documents, the issue of mishandling, the presence of double standards, and the implications of selective prosecution. The recurring issues that had captured the headlines for months reemerged. But this time, both Bondi and Clinton shared the same segment. The network had hinted at this lineup for several days. It was the sort of combination that could either culminate in an explosive success or a public relations catastrophe. Perhaps a combination of the two. Jeff took a moment to gather himself and fixed his gaze directly at the camera. This evening, we are delving into the tumultuous political landscape concerning classified information and the quest for accountability. We are pleased to welcome former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, joining us live. Joining us in the studio is Pam Bondi, who previously served as the Attorney General of Florida. Bondi offered a subtle acknowledgement to the camera. Clinton's expression seemed serene, perhaps even slightly entertained. Jeff went on, "Secretary Clinton, you've expressed your concerns lately regarding what you've referred to as selective enforcement in the DOJ's investigations. Could you elaborate on that?" Clinton offered a subtle smile. "Well, Jeff, it seems many people across the country are beginning to observe a recurring theme. When specific individuals find themselves in the spotlight, the process accelerates rapidly. However, when it comes to individuals in proximity to authority, the guidelines appear to become indistinct. From the outset, I've maintained that transparency must be universal." Bondi remained still. "Not at this moment. Not a single blink." Clinton continued, her voice fluid yet sharp. "What troubles me isn't merely the existence of classified documents in an individual's residence or workplace. It's the glaring double standard at play. The intense buzz surrounding one event contrasted with the quietude regarding others. We're transforming legal challenges into instruments of political power, and that's perilous." Jeff offered a brief nod. "Pam, I sense you have some ideas brewing." Remaining composed, Bondi made a subtle adjustment to her seat and directed her gaze toward Clinton's image displayed on the screen. "I do," she stated simply. Her voice had a gentle quality, yet it resonated with clarity. "However, I find it intriguing that we are discussing transparency from an individual who deleted 33,000 emails following a congressional subpoena." The studio remained silent, yet an unmistakable change lingered in the atmosphere. Even Jeff seemed taken aback by the speed at which Bondi entered. Clinton maintained a composed demeanor, though her lips were pressed together just a bit. "Allow me to clarify," Bondi went on. "I'm not here to revisit the past merely for the sake of discussion. However, when we engage in a conversation about transparency and accountability, we must approach it with honesty regarding past examples. Are you suggesting that some individuals are exempt from the law? Some might argue that you were regarded as if you were beyond reach." Jeff attempted to insert his thoughts. "Let's maintain our attention on the ongoing inquiries. We are," Bondi said, keeping his gaze fixed on the screen, "as the ongoing investigations are being evaluated based on the way yours were managed. Memories linger on." Clinton let out a breath. "Pam, I believe this isn't yielding any positive results." "No, what's truly unproductive," Bondi interjected, her tone remaining composed, "is the pretense that we all share a common understanding of the law. If that were the case, this conversation wouldn't be taking place. The studio lay in silence. No one had the courage to shift their chair. Even Jeff remained motionless. Bondi reclined a bit. Are you seeking clarity? Let's get started. Let's discuss the memo from the DOJ that was discreetly unsealed last week. The document that details precisely how your team removed classified material following the subpoena. Clinton squinted her eyes. Bondi remarked on the topic of political weapons. Imagine experiencing a media blackout while the evidence stacked against you hardly gets a mention. However, Clinton had more to say, and her reply would derail the entire situation. Clinton's face remained composed, yet there was a subtle shift in her expression. A fleeting instant where the meticulously crafted facade faltered. It was a fleeting moment, perhaps just half a second. Yet Pam noticed it. Jeff leaned in, visibly attempting to regain authority. Madam Secretary, do you have any comments on that? Clinton averted his gaze from him. Her gaze remained locked on the camera lens, as though she were addressing the millions tuning in from their homes. It is profoundly disheartening, she started, that we continue to exist in a political landscape where half-truths and partisan attacks are regarded as truths. I have provided testimony for more than 11 hours. I have responded to every inquiry while under oath. Numerous inquiries, I should note, with support from both sides, have revealed no illegal actions on my behalf. None. Pam remained silent. She remained expressionless, simply observing and absorbing the sounds around her. Clinton maintained her increasingly pointed tone. Pam, you're familiar with the process. It's clear that the DOJ only reveals memos when there's a broader context involved. It's clear that showcasing half-finished work can lead to risky outcomes. Your actions here lack true accountability. They resemble a performance instead. One of the other panelists, Darnell Price, a former federal prosecutor, adjusted his position in his seat. If I may, he said, I believe Secretary Clinton is correct to emphasize the importance of context. The intricacies of these investigations are considerable. These are not mere snippets from cable news. Individuals at home merit more than just selected highlights. Pam finally spoke, her tone steady. Provide them with a comprehensive view. That's the point I'm making. Yet Clinton persevered, unmistakably finding her stride once more. The complete scenario, Pam, reveals that we are observing an attempt to make lawlessness seem acceptable. When classified documents appear in an individual's private office, whether at Mar-a-Lago or Bedminster, it's promptly labeled as a mistake or an oversight. However, when a similar situation occurs under an administration that is not in power, it is branded as a scandal. She took a moment to let her words sink in, then continued, that's not law, that's politics. Jeff cast a quick look at the camera, his producer probably shouting in his earpiece to maintain the timeline. I want to ensure we create room for both perspectives. Clinton interrupted. This isn't a matter of two perspectives, Jeff. It revolves around maintaining a steady approach. As the FBI scrutinized my emails, I found myself entangled in years of political hearings. Decades. However, we now have additional individuals acknowledging their possession of classified information. And some individuals in this space wish to act as if it's a matter of apples and oranges. Pam finally averted her gaze toward Jeff. Am I able to reply at this moment? He spoke briefly, his discomfort evident. However, Clinton held on tightly. No, wait a minute, because I'm fed up with the selective outrage. To prioritize national security, we must address every breach, rather than only those that align with our chosen political narrative. The remaining panelists acknowledged with a nod. That seems reasonable. Pam remained silent for a moment longer. She leaned in gradually, her hands resting on the table. Hillary, may I pose a question to you? She inquired. If you underwent such a comprehensive investigation, and if all of that was genuinely resolved, why does your name continue to appear in recently unsealed documents? What is the reason behind DOJ emails from 2017 mentioning discussions about material that was allegedly destroyed? Jeff stiffened. Pam, I'm posing a question, she remarked. At this moment, those observing are pondering the very same question. We might act as if the media cycle has resolved all issues, but the legal documentation tells a different story. Is this what you call theater? Perhaps. Yet, it's a performance crafted from records that your group never anticipated would come to light. The line fell into a hushed stillness. Clinton took some time before responding. In this particular broadcast, she appeared to be selecting her words with great care for the first time. I'm not going to engage with conspiracy theories, she finally stated, her voice strained. Pam inclined her head thoughtfully. If it's documented by the DOJ, it can't be labeled a conspiracy. Jeff rushed in swiftly. It's time for a break. We shall be back in just 1 minute. The screen transitioned to a commercial break. For countless viewers tuning in from Dayton, Ohio to Bakersfield, California, the focus of the show transcended the ad breaks. It was about what had just begun to reveal itself. However, when the segment continued, Bondi remained unresponsive. She would command the entire room. The network logo flickered briefly. Subsequently, the screen transitioned back to the studio. Jeff leaned forward, a smile playing on his lips, yet it failed to illuminate his eyes. Welcome back, he said swiftly. This evening, we will carry on our conversation regarding classified documents and the issue of accountability, featuring insights from former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton and former Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi. However, Bondi was not in a state of anticipation this time. She stated with conviction, I want to clarify something. No one is resurrecting the past for the sake of gaining an advantage. We are discussing patterns. I'm not referencing blogs or pundits. I am referencing records from the Department of Justice. Numerous documents that slipped out last week while everyone was focused on other matters. She extended her hand toward a slender folder resting beside her. I possess a copy right here. The document details internal memos from the DOJ dating back to late 2017 and early 2018. These documents were never intended to be revealed. Concerns are raised regarding obstruction in the Clinton investigation, particularly in relation to the deletion of emails following the issuance of the congressional subpoena. Jeff appeared startled. Pam, I'm uncertain if... I'm not making any accusations. I'm simply reading, she responded effortlessly. A note from a senior DOJ official states, and I quote, it remains unclear whether devices were destroyed in coordination with staff counsel after receiving legal notice. Timing is a cause for concern. Hillary's expression stays composed on the screen, yet her fingers dance softly against the surface of her desk. A restless tendency she had never completely overcome. I have reviewed that memo, she stated at last. The conversation was part of a larger dialogue that was inaccurately portrayed. The process was diligently followed by my legal team. I have been cleared by the FBI. There was no intention to mismanage anything. Pam lifted her eyebrows in surprise. Intent is a fascinating topic, as just last month. The DOJ contended in court that it wasn't required for charges against a different former official. It was claimed that mere possession sufficed. Are we applying varying standards for different individuals? Are the rules meant to be universal for all? Darnell leaped in from the other side of the table. Pam, we must exercise caution. The evolution of legal standards is influenced by context. Pam shifted her gaze in his direction. Absolutely, but the real risk lies in assuming they evolve in a singular direction. When one individual receives the benefit of every doubt, while another is condemned even before any charges are brought, it leads to a breakdown of trust among people. When trust shatters, democracy stands firm. Cracks sharply. Jeff attempted to change direction. Let's refocus on the larger concern at hand. Yet Bondi had more to offer. She glanced back at Hillary's screen. You possess great intelligence, Hillary. There is no disagreement on that point. However, it's quite disingenuous to appear on national television and preach about transparency when many of us have witnessed your legal team tirelessly working to obstruct FOIA requests and erase metadata for years. You were fortunate enough to leave it all behind without facing any consequences. Some individuals are not receiving the same level of consideration. Clinton's lips pressed together. You are not accurately portraying the facts. I'm referencing your record, Bondi retorted, and the audience can verify it for themselves. The concept is straightforward. You discuss equity. Let's discuss the Navy sailor who faced consequences for capturing 6 images within a restricted zone on a submarine. No intention to disclose. There is no danger to the nation's safety. Merely an error. He lost it all. She halted, allowing the gravity of that land to settle in. In the meantime, classified documents were stored on a private server in a residence that lacked even basic federal security measures. And yet here you are, claiming that the system doesn't treat you fairly. Silence filled the air. This was not the type of performance one might expect. Yet the quiet conveyed a depth that applause never could. Clinton finally leaned in, a palpable tension radiating from him. Pam, I dedicated my service to this nation. I have endured more examination than one could possibly conceive. I have come to terms with it, understanding the expectations that come with being in the public eye. But don't act as if your indignation is rooted in fairness. It's all about the game of power. Everything. Bondi nodded slowly and with intention. You have a point there. Public life requires responsibility, yet it does not call for forgetfulness. I refuse to engage in any games when it comes to honesty. Jeff took a breath, ready to speak, but paused. Even he sensed the change in the atmosphere. However, what transpired next altered the atmosphere entirely. It completely broke Clinton's composure. In that fleeting instant, silence enveloped the space. The kind that causes producers in control rooms to sit up and take notice. Clinton's screen remained stuck, capturing her expression in a moment of stillness. Calm on the surface, yet visibly shaken. She parted her lips, then hesitated. She cast her gaze downward. What followed was far from the refined words she typically expressed. I didn't cut the feed, she murmured softly, as if sharing a secret with the air around her. I believe we've overlooked what truly holds significance. Jeff took a moment to clear his throat. Secretary Clinton, would you care to address Pam's previous remark? She composed herself and sought to find her balance once more. There's a reason individuals like Pam continue to reference 2016. It's simpler to dwell on the past than to engage in discussions about the present moment. They aim to craft a diversion to obscure the turmoil unfolding within their ranks. Pam inclined her head. Do you really believe a DOJ memo from 5 months ago is just history? That's precisely what I'm conveying. You maintain a careful distance, ensuring your own protection, yet you draw near when it serves your interests. Clinton dismissed the notion with a shake of her head. I express my thoughts because I genuinely care. I have found myself in spaces where choices are crafted that influence the safety of the nation. I understand the burden that comes with being accountable. I understand the experience of being used as a pawn in the game of politics. Pam interjected softly. I understand the experience of advocating for someone who lacks access to privileged connections or protective institutions. A person who erred less than you yet faced a more severe consequence. That hit with an intensity unlike anything experienced prior. Clinton cast his gaze downward once more, a clear sign of his growing irritation. I refuse to stand by and allow you to alter the past. Pam gave a subtle nod. No one is making any changes. We are reviewing it meticulously, every single word. A noticeable change occurred in Clinton's tone, taking on a quality that felt almost defensive. Do you know what's selective, Pam? She inquired, her voice rising slightly, acting as if you're the sole guardian of the truth. I have dedicated many years to the realm of public service. I have attended hearings. I have laid to rest friends who sacrificed everything for this nation.